Hi, everybody, and welcome into another one of our conversations. As you know, for the first time in more than 30 years, Spartanburg has a professional baseball team, giving the upstate to minor league teams once again, as was the case from the mid-'80s into the mid-'90s. And here we are in 2025 as the Greenville Drive is joined by the Hub City Spartanburgers, both teams in the High A South Atlantic League, the Spartanburgers, the High A affiliate of the Texas Rangers. Well, a couple of guys who call all their action, some talented young broadcasters in the industry, so kind to join us for our conversation this time around. Ian Unsworth and Andrew Selover, both proud alums of Syracuse University, so you got that going for you guys. Since they're in the ACC, I guess folks have become a little bit more familiar with the Cuse, at least having seen them play over at Clemson. Thanks so much for coming in. Ian, let's start out with you, and you've been in the area now for almost half a year, I guess. What's your experience here in the upstate been like so far? Obviously, a different part of the country than from where you've lived in the past.
Well, everyone's been so welcoming, first and foremost. The energy around downtown Spartanburg and the excitement to have baseball back since the Phillies left in the late 80s, early 90s has really been a tidal wave that's brought our front office and fueled us through the end of the build-up all the way to April 1st and April 2nd and then to April 15th. The amount of people I've had shaking my hand, recommending restaurants, inviting me to a church service on Sunday morning has really been overwhelming, but it's been so helpful to have those people give me an extra boost every day through some long hours at night, welcoming Andrew in and then saying, hey, Andrew, put on your work clothes. Let's move some boxes on a Sunday evening after he drove up from Atlanta. So to have the support from the community in Spartanburg and in the upstate, the Drive have been nice and welcomed us in here.
Sure.
And everybody's been so great through the first couple months of the season to keep us on the right track and bring us to what are going to be some high points here down the road. 4th of July, August with a bunch of homestands, and then hopefully a playoff game down the line.
Yeah, the team came close in the first half, contending for the South Division title. But here we are as we put this broadcast together early in the second half. We'll see how it plays out. Andrew, as Ian alluded to, you have Atlanta ties. Anyone up north to go to college had to get used to that weather. But here you are back close to home in near the Atlanta area where you grew up.
That's right, Pete. Getting back and used to the humidity here of the South here. Grew up in Atlanta, so just a couple hours down the road. And it's pretty cool to see. You know, obviously this is a lot of Braves territory in terms of Major League Baseball, but to see the community of Spartanburg kind of buy in a project that took a couple of years to really grow an appreciation for all the hard work that people put in to bring this project to life and have baseball back in Spartanburg. It feels like the community's just totally bought into what has happened here in the last 2 years. You've seen it from the fans that come out, and it's pretty cool to get back down here and doing baseball here in the Southeast.
So, guys, let's go deeper into your backgrounds. Ian, start out with you. So your journey has you here as the voice of the Hub City Spartanburgers, but kind of tell me about growing up life, where you've lived, and then life through Syracuse University. You were a few years ahead of Andrew there.
Sure, I moved a lot. I was born in Philadelphia. My dad played in the Philadelphia Orchestra, French horn, fourth chair. So he got a job when I was 6 or 7, and we moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he worked at U of M for the past now almost 17 years. He's moved to Northwestern now to teach in Evanston, where he went to college. So really excited for him to have that opportunity. But grew up a Phillies fan and a Michigan sports fan, so kind of walked the line. And, of course, being a Michigan Wolverines fan, you've got a lot of pain and then a national championship that everyone contests. We'll leave that one to the side. But played baseball all my life growing up, loved it to death, spent all my summers from second grade until the end of my high school career playing baseball and fully engrossed in it. So when I got to college, even though Syracuse doesn't have baseball, it was a natural attraction to some sort of field, some sort of diamond where I could keep that passion going. And freshman year I had COVID, so went and sat at home and did absolutely nothing for a couple weeks, months. But then after sophomore year, got my first crack at it with the Kalamazoo Growlers in the Northwoods League. Summer collegiate baseball, played with wood bats, pretty much travel sports for college kids after their season wraps up, and that's a grueling slate. That's 72 games in 76 days. So fewer off days for those college kids than even the major or minor leaguers get throughout their seasons. But the year after, I got a chance in the Cape Cod League with the Chatham A's, which is one of, if not the best summer collegiate broadcast setups in the entire country. Both Andrew and I have the pleasure to be mentored by Dan Duva, who's the radio voice of the Vegas Golden Knights, and he's been instrumental for both of us in moving our careers forward and giving us feedback that has helped us get better. So from there, after college, moved down to North Carolina, worked with Team USA's collegiate national team for a summer, freelanced my way around with Duke in North Carolina, along with other schools, did some MEAC football in that fall following graduation. Spent last summer with the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, my first crack in minor league baseball. That's the AA affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays. And then after one more fall and winter of freelancing back in North Carolina, here we are.
Yep, man. In the upstate now, and again, employee of a really good organization and part of the Diamond Sports baseball, or Diamond Baseball rather, and that's also a really good organization for you guys to be aligned with. Ian, real quick, how far out on the Cape is Chatham?
So the Cape, if you almost think of it like your arm here, I'll do the motion in the camera.
Yep.
So Chatham is about at the elbow.
Gotcha.
Of your arm. It's smack dab on the edge of the bay side and the ocean side. It is one of, if not the most beautiful vacation towns in all of the country, not just Cape Cod. The 4th of July parade is really what it's known for. It brings out 5,000-6,000 people just lining these little city streets, shops, and then white houses, and the most perfect 4th of July you could possibly think of. And Veterans Field with sunsets, it's a very classic baseball experience. Fans don't pay, they just show up with lawn chairs, and they take in a ball game.
And just like probably so many other places where you have summertime college teams, I would suppose the locals embrace the local team, and it kind of became maybe part of their nightly routine?
Absolutely. You get fans from all over because the Cape Cod League has had movies made about it, books written about it. Everyone from across the country wants a little piece of this because you get the best players from all over the country, too. On my college team, we had Caden Grice and Cooper Ingle from Georgia, from Clemson, I should say.
Yeah.
Ricky Williams played at South Carolina and Clemson and Charleston, so a lot of ties from the Palmetto State there. And we had a lot of other talent, guys from LSU, guys from Alabama, some Big Ten guys. So all the scouts are there, and that brings all the fans there as well.
Now, Andrew, as Ian alluded to, you had some Cape Cod League experience, but take us back to the start of your story. And again, we mentioned Atlanta is in your background, but kind of take us through your growing up time all the way through Syracuse and beyond.
It is. So I spent 18 years in Atlanta, so did all my childhood there. My parents moved there just before I was born. I grew up in the middle of Atlanta in Virginia Highlands right by Georgia Tech, so started going to Yellow Jackets games when I was just 3, 4, 5 years old, going to baseball games, football games, and really grew a love for college sports, to start. Became a big Braves fan, among other sports. And then in high school, I went to Marist School up in Dunwoody, just north of Atlanta, and had a good chance in the last couple of years there as a part of the broadcasting club at Marist to get to broadcast some of the sports games at Marist. Did the football games. We traveled on the road, too, so we did every football game every fall. And I got to broadcast some basketball games and soccer games and baseball games while I was there, too. So kind of got my start in broadcasting at Marist in high school, and then decided, junior, senior year of high school that I wanted to pursue that, and went up to Syracuse to get a degree in broadcast journalism. Spent 3.5 years up at Syracuse doing a lot of cool stuff there. And then, as Ian mentioned, for a lot of people that want to get into baseball, summer collegiate baseball is kind of the right pathway to do that, because at Syracuse specifically, you're not calling many baseball games there. So
you're not calling any.
Yeah.
I went down actually after my freshman summer to High Point, Thomasville, North Carolina, to work in the Coastal Plain League, and did a summer there before doing 2 summers up in Chatham, Massachusetts with the Cape Cod Baseball League. So I got to do 3 summers of summer collegiate baseball, and then after graduating in December at Syracuse, came down here to start with minor league baseball. But I think the coolest part about summer collegiate baseball, you get a lot of good athletes, a lot of players that are playing, Power 5 baseball. And when you're at a Power 5 school, you're kind of treated as a professional athlete almost. You're secluded from the rest of college life. But you go up to Cape Cod, for example, these guys are living with host families. They're out at the field, and you're just interacting with them, on a different level, on a day-to-day life level. So it's pretty cool to build those relationships as well in that experience.
Yeah, and it's kind of a grounding kind of thing for them, and it's probably something they appreciate, being away from the quote-unquote rat race of being that high profile, and in some cases at college baseball programs, athlete that you are. Andrew, you went down to High Point, I assume the High Toms.
That's right.
Playing in a ballpark where literally nothing is from planet Earth. Am I right about that?
Exactly. You've got in left field at Finch Field down there in High Point, Thomasville. You've got a hill in left field. You've got a lot of former, professional athletes that have played baseball there. It's pretty cool. It's old school. They've got the old wooden scoreboard that they wouldn't run every game.
Sure.
There wasn't AC inside of it, so they didn't want to stick kids out there to run the scoreboard for every game. But I think twice that summer they put people out there to actually put the score in on the old-fashioned wooden scoreboard.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. It's another small-town setup where the fans of that local community get to connect with these players. Lived with a host family there. Eric Grintz, who was a catcher at North Carolina and then High Point, he lived with me with that host family. So it's another example of, the community kind of embracing this summer culture. And you get to build those relationships, like I mentioned, with all these athletes, and it's pretty cool access to tell their stories.
In High Point, there is a ballpark that I know you guys are both familiar with that literally is all synthetic. It is a lot different than Fifth Third Park in Spartanburg. So let's transition over and talk about the work so far with the Hub City Spartanburgers, and how you guys came about landing in the roles. So Ian and Andrew, both guys, like all of us in broadcasting, always looking for opportunities. When, Ian, did you find out you'd be coming down to join this organization?
Well, really lucky to have connections from our work in summer collegiate ball, and that's where it first started. I saw that Tyson Jeffers, our general manager, had been brought on as the first Spartanburgers employee hired by Diamond Baseball Holdings, the ownership group that runs not only the Spartanburgers, but over 40 minor league teams across the country. And luckily, Tyson came from Hudson Valley, the high A affiliate of the Yankees, the Renegades, out there near the southern tier of New York, about 45 minutes outside the city. And luckily, I and Andrew both have a connection with one of the Yankees broadcasters who spent a summer out in Hudson Valley. He got to know Tyson a little bit, and luckily he was kind enough to put in a word for me. And from there, got my foot in the door, got an interview, and I was actually visiting a buddy out in Milwaukee, middle of January, and I got a call from Tyson. And it wasn't, hey, you got the job. It was, hey, can you talk on Friday? And that, when it's Wednesday, makes your stomach bubble and boil for the whole span of 2 days.
Yep.
And this is a childhood friend. I haven't seen him in a long, long time.
Sure.
I'm just trying to lay back and enjoy myself. It's also 8 degrees in Milwaukee, so I don't know what I was thinking going out there in January.
Yeah.
But luckily, on Friday, probably Tyson's last thing before he left the office for the weekend was calling me and letting me know that I was the voice of the Hub City Spartanburgers.
Yeah.
And I think I got a noise complaint because I let out a war whoop that shook the apartment.
I would think so.
It was such a memorable experience.
Yep.
Called my parents right away, let them know. And then luckily enough, Tyson gave me an avenue to, really control the broadcast setup from there. And I got to bring someone else on with me, and I wouldn't have anyone else besides Andrew next to me.
Great. Andrew, hold the thought on your story as to how it all came about. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and get Andrew's side of landing with the Hub City Spartanburgers. And these guys do so much more than talk when the mics are on and the games are being played. And that is ahead when we continue in a moment. Welcome back. We're talking Hub City Spartanburgers with the guys who talk Hub City Spartanburgers, the voice of the Spartanburgers, Ian Unsworth, and also Andrew Selover on the broadcast each and every game with Ian. And it's been a pleasure for me to be working with you guys this year, and I'm just so thankful for the opportunity for the games I get to do. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm getting to see you guys grow your careers. So Andrew, and we heard Ian's story about getting the call, and we all know what that feels like whenever you get an opportunity in this industry. So tell me about you coming in contact first with the opportunity and then sealing the deal, and it put you down here just before the season began.
Yeah, that's right, Pete. So finishing up school in December was always kind of a target of mine at Syracuse so that I could kind of accelerate into the industry as quick as I could. And obviously minor league baseball, the timeline of that works out pretty well where you start the season in March. So I was looking at a bunch of different opportunities to maybe go do minor league baseball here this spring. Obviously, when Ian got hired here with the Hub City Spartanburgers, I had known Ian. He was overlapping with me at Syracuse for 2 years. So we were still in pretty close contact, and we would talk. And I actually had visited Ian probably, I don't know, a month or two before this happened down in Durham when he was still in Durham. I had gone down because I had gone back to Syracuse just to do some basketball games and had gone down there for a game at Duke. So we got breakfast or something out in Durham probably a month or two before this happened. But yeah, talked on the phone a couple times with Ian. He was looking for somebody else to join in to complete the booth here in Spartanburg, and it's worked out really well, coming down in March within the last month really before the ballpark opened, before we got actual baseball in. And I have a great appreciation for all the people that spent years making this happen, right? I kind of tagged in within a month before we got to open the ballpark, and Ian was a few months before that, but there were people here working for a year or two to make sure this happened. And for them, I think opening day was a little more special than it was for me because they were through the whole process and were dying to see baseball played on that field. But it's been pretty cool to help open up the first season in franchise history, and to see everything that's gone into it beforehand has been cool.
And going into making a game happen takes a lot of tentacles, and I don't think folks maybe appreciate, and they just might not know, in every industry there are things beyond the front door that most from the outside have no understanding. But beyond broadcasters, you guys have so many roles. So Ian, start with you. Give me some of the things that you have to do that you probably never could have imagined needing to do, but it's all part of your role with the team and beyond just when the red light comes on and the mic. What are some of the things that in a day or in a week or during a homestand you may have to encounter?
So we do a lot of paperwork. That's the first thing. I answer a lot of emails, and everyone always has questions from the media side. Sometimes it's helping out the folks here at WSPA, whether that's Jamarcus, who wants to get a first look at the burger bar, or we had a zip trip a couple weeks ago, and that had me at the ballpark at 3 a.m. bright and early on a Friday morning. We had a game at 6:35 p.m., and there I was, heavily caffeinated, calling the game nonetheless. But a lot of the media relations side of things runs through us. So whether that is interviews from outside sources, or maybe creating stat packs and game notes and stat sheets for the coaches and managers, everyone else who comes in from the Rangers organization who wants to know, hey, what's the latest statistics-wise with the team? We provide that to both sides, home and visitors, every single day. And other things we do, not necessarily daily, but any single time we need an article for a program that we bring out every single week. Oh, there's me throwing the T-shirt. All right, my rotator cuff's still on. That's good. But anytime we're writing articles for programs, we're helping out creating some content, or whether it be a marketing campaign. I was lucky enough to have a hand in bringing Sparkle here to the Hub City and helping the Greenville Zoo out with over $5,000 worth of donations. So that was something that was really special to me, was getting an opportunity to help out on the promotional side, the marketing side, and make a difference there, not just on the air.
And then Andrew, as Ian pointed out, one of your first days here, maybe your first day, you're lifting boxes around. And again, there are a lot of behind the scenes you do that have a media connection, but beyond that, but kind of take us through some of the things you're doing when not broadcasting the games.
Yeah, so I was coming down from Syracuse, right, where I was still doing some games, and my dad flew up to Syracuse so he could help with, it's double-digit hour drive down with all my stuff in the car. We drive down. My mom drives up from Atlanta to meet me here, and we toured a few places to live and actually decided on a spot and moved in, and then went to the ballpark to see that. And we saw Ian, and my parents, walked around, got to see the place, and then they took off. And then Ian and I were there for probably 2 more hours, and we're moving chairs and tables and whatever else, because you're not really fully prepared for opening day until that first pitch is thrown. There's always a lot of stuff to do. So certainly before the season, there was some heavy lifting, and then just trying to help out around the office as much you can. Ian talked about some of the paperwork. We'll do a scorecard every day with the starting lineups on it, with the stats, and it's actually, got the boxes where if we'll put out some for the fans if they want to bring a pen or pencil and actually score the game, they can. And then we'll also give them to all the, media and the people up in the press box that actually need the starting lineups for that day. So we'll do that in the game notes and all of that to help out the media and the fans as much as we can. And then just helping out the organization, because it is, a team effort inside of that 20, 30-person front office. You got to pull the tarp sometimes if it's going to rain. As
you guys have pulled tarp. You pulled
we
it.
get
Wow.
plenty of pop-up showers. So sometimes you're you're needed down there on the field to keep that
Yep.
keep that grass fresh and ready to play baseball.
I'm fortunate enough to go on the road too with the team, and Andrew is my eyes and ears inside the front office, giving me updates, whether it be with marketing or from a promotional homestand meeting or whatever needs to happen. He's gone on the road with me too, and that's really been a blessing, because when you're on the road by yourself and the team's in the midst of an 8-game losing streak, there are some long, long nights.
Yeah.
Some minor league baseball teams don't even travel a broadcaster altogether. So for one of us to go is awesome within itself, but to have both of us and to keep that chemistry and the camaraderie going is a whirlwind of fun.
It really is. And again, credit to the organization, to you guys, the fact that you're on MILB TV at home, of course, and also doing an audio stream. You have a radio station that's carrying your games home and away, and also when you're on the road, you're doing an audio stream. And that's really good to have the broadcasters both home and away. And again, blessed that we have the involvement with the CW62 and with Ingalls to get several of the games on broadcast TV in this market. So I really love the exposure. I'll tell you, Ian, it's a really interesting piece of your role also. So the Texas Rangers obviously are in charge of that roster and controlling things in the field. And as is the case in minor league baseball, guys come and go a lot. And when that happens, you've also got to jump into action. Why don't you give folks kind of an idea as to your role when a transaction happens from up above involving the team?
So luckily we have inside sources inside the Rangers organization. Those will not be revealed. And they keep us updated, because guys drive in, they fly in at every single hour you could possibly imagine. The Rangers are shuttling guys from Frisco to Spartanburg to Hickory, North Carolina at 6 a.m., 11 p.m. They will show up, they'll put a uniform on, and we're responsible for knowing who they are. Because if we don't, if the official scorer doesn't, well, then that's an automatic loss for the Spartanburgers. We can't have that.
Yeah.
So when it comes time for a roster move, a transaction, I'll always check in with Chad Comer, our manager, make sure everything's squared away on his end. And then we update the roster. We have a physical copy, and that gets sent out every single time there's a change, even if that's just one guy going on the 7-day IL, if that's one guy getting promoted, or if it's a change of 6 like we had back on Tuesday, Pete. You remember that, where at 11:05 first pitch, we had 3 players added, 3 players sent other places. So there's a whole lot that gets taken care of. But most importantly, it's updating the folks at minor league baseball, letting them know, hey, look, we've got some new Spartanburgers players. They'll be in action today. And then also keeping everybody else updated, because there are other folks, other reporters, and other Spartanburgers fans that want to know that we've got new guys, because they want to learn who's playing for their team. And most importantly, when a guy like Rafe Parrish last night has his first double-A hit, or high-A hit, it's an RBI double, you want to make sure the fans know who's on that video board and who just smacked the big one, so they can cheer for him all the same.
No, absolutely. It's such a vital role. And Andrew, and I think both you and Ian embrace the fact that after doing the different levels of baseball you have and getting to know guys, you get to know such a wide variety of different personalities with this organization. And Andrew, you can speak to that, and then Ian speak to the fact that, you know, you're getting to know guys that may not speak your language, but you've got to figure out a way to communicate. And how enlightening has that been for you, and now in this stage of your career with guys from all over the Western Hemisphere, really, on this roster?
Yeah, it's not something that you would oftentimes run into in, say, the collegiate summer ball leagues, because there's not a ton of international talent coming in to play collegiately baseball here in America. But definitely in the minor leagues, there's a ton of international free agent signings by these teams. You know, specifically, we have players from Venezuela and the Dominican Republic that come to the United States and don't speak a ton of English. I've really admired getting to know them and also seeing their kind of journey to learning English. There's so many of them that, you know, are taking this opportunity that they've been given to come here to the U.S. and play baseball and also use it to learn English. A lot of them are in English class most days at the ballpark, and they've kind of used us as kind of bounce boards to try out different words. And some of them will come up to our desk and say, hey, we learned this word today, and then we'll try and, you know, get them to use it in conversation. I've had a number of players. We usually do an interview with a player or a coach before every game on the pregame show, and we've had a number of players that have done their first ever interview in English this season. So that's been a really cool journey to see those guys get better at the language as part of their journey off the baseball field this season.
And Ian, why don't you go ahead and add to that? Yeah.
A lot of them are 20, 21 years old. Could you imagine it? 16 or 17 becoming a professional in your home country, move away from your parents, you're at a dorm pretty much with a bunch of kids you've never met before, and then you have to perform for your life salary. That's a really tall task. And then a year later, you're off to a different country and you have to make it work. I think the most important thing for us, and from our standpoint, is let's meet them halfway. I try my best to communicate in a little Spanglish. There's a lot of hand gesturing that goes on too. But the best part is that we all can speak the universal language of baseball. So whether that's fastball, whether that's barrel, whether that's stolen base, you can get stuff across from these guys, and you can always learn from them that way. That's how you build the connection. And then afterwards, when you sit down with them for one of those extended interviews, they'll really open up to you and give you a lot that you might not have expected to get from someone who just appears to be on the quieter side at the beginning of the season, or someone who's reluctant to talk to you because they don't know what you're there for at first, or they've never seen a broadcaster in that role because Low A Hickory doesn't have a broadcaster. So for some of these guys, it's their first ever experience being interviewed or having someone broadcast their games on a night-to-night basis. So making sure they're comfortable with us, trying to meet them in the middle from a communication standpoint, from a prep standpoint, learning about them and asking them questions, but making sure they're comfortable with us because eventually they'll open up and you'll get the good stuff as a broadcaster that you never would have gotten any other way.
That's a very good point. Really good group of guys on the roster. And Chad Comer, just a great guy to deal with as well. And I know his staff is very helpful as well for you guys and for the times I'm over there too. And thanks so much. We will wrap it up by thanking Ian Unsworth, the voice of the Hub City Spartanburgers, Andrew Selover, also a broadcaster, guys who are all part of this first season of baseball being back in Spartanburg. Guys, best of luck. Looking forward to working with you guys as we continue on during the season. And we thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. For now, Pete Yanity saying so long.